says personal friend because we got to meet one another through Shirley Dalton's leadership course. And it's there really that we discovered, I guess, the same sort of kinship, and came across a couple of programs that we did together that I noticed some other people in the room have been through the same sort of program. But it's those types of getting together that has people form relationships, and I certainly count them as true friends. So, a little bit about me first. How did I often ask myself, and I wonder, do you ever ask yourself how you got here today? How did you just finish Cert 4, and what made you take that left-hand right when you could have taken the road right? I often reflect on the people in my life that helped me, caused me to be where I am today. It's always been a lifelong goal to be in front of an audience and speak with one of those little microphones. And if you think back to the times where I'd like to have that, for me it was actually at one of those Christopher Howard seminars, and he was speaking in front of 3,000 people, telling stories, and had one of those really cool mics. And I gave myself there a goal. That would be me one day. And I'm on that path. Right? Like you are setting yourselves goals and on the same sort of path. Today I have a wife of 14 years. I have two fabulous children, 9 and 10, Montana and Georgia. I'm fortunate enough, I probably only work in my income business about 6 hours a week, and I spend the majority of my time this year, that was a big focus out of doing Shirley's course, mostly on health, keeping fit. I probably do about 3 hours a day. I spend a lot of time surprising my wife at work and taking her out to lunch. I drop off my kids every day to school, and I pick them up every day from school. And then I play with them for 2 hours usually before we start getting into homework. That's where my life is right now. Of course, it always hasn't been that way. There have been other times where I've been absolutely miserable, away for 37 weeks a year, travelling the world, but never getting to be with the people that I love. And it was in that particular journey that's where that referral guy started. So, what I aim to do today is to tell you 3 stories, 3 little brief stories, and hopefully that you'll get a learning on how did he get to be that referral guy, and what was your goal, what was your dream, and where is it you want to become. I'm actually going to set myself a little a timer and record myself for 2 reasons. One, when this goes off in 20 minutes, I have a really good cheer, and that way I'll know that my time's up. And even if you don't clap, at least I get a clap. And the second one is I always like to look and see how I could do things better. So I'll record myself and then listen to it and say, well, would I have enjoyed that particular speech? Did I get something out of that? And so I'm very big on welcoming feedback. So, the purpose of the business. The purpose of a business is to create and keep customers. Well, there are many different ways about going and doing that, but ultimately that's what it is. And I've met about 12,000 business owners over the last 5 years that don't know what the purpose of a business is. Okay? So let's start out with slide 1. So if they got me here to speak, and my area of expertise is about referral generations, I want you to listen through this particular talk and find out what is the purpose of networking for you. What does it mean for you? Why do people network in the first place? For some of my friends and closest friends, they're not really sure on what social media is and what is referrals. And Glenn, why do you send me links to things? And why do you send me gifts? So what is network marketing, referrals, whatever you want to call it? What is it for you? There are different ways to get business. All of them work. Pick which one that you like working in and go for more of that. For me, it's referrals. I don't like doing selling. I like it when people come to me, they've got a problem, and they know that I can solve it. And that way I get to spend more of the time doing what I do, and they pay me for that. What's the most effective way for you? So, when I first started my business, I learned a really cool way to get business, and that was by referrals. So I became like this guy. I just wanted to run around and tell everybody about it. Okay? And so this is really slide 1 and lesson 1. It was about passion. A good friend of mine, Ross McSweeney, and I was in the import business, wanted to buy some flowers. And so he asked me, Glenn, who are the florists that you trust? And so I gave him 3 contacts. Eventually it was to lead into a referral for their wedding. And this story goes on to, how does my daughter turn up to school one day and say, my dad has breakfast and talks on the phone a lot? So it was on that path that Ross said, well, you're a really good connector, Glenn, but I've got to tell you, you're miserable and you need to find another job. Within about 2 weeks later on, I got invited by a friend just to go having a beer on a Friday, and that particular story, he told me the same thing. Glenn, you're miserable. You've got to get another job. So he set me down a goal, and that was, so what is an ideal job for you? And I wrote down what I wanted to do. Within 2 weeks, I'd invited to a networking group. And there, I saw the speaker speaking to about 50 people, and I said, that's what I want to do. I sold my importing business of about $176,000. I borrowed at least twice that much, and I bought into that particular franchise. So I didn't know anything about how to network. I was not very good at getting referrals. I just knew that I wanted to do what he did. So I began upskilling myself, listening to tapes and CDs, and then the following Friday my wife came home and said, you aren't going to work today? And I said, no, I've sold that business. I did it all behind her back. And she said, well, that sounds great, but what are we going to do for money? Because I was earning about $120,000 in the importing game, and that was good, and we built up a lifestyle around that. And we went from that to now not having any income at all and having debt. And so I had to get pretty quick. I didn't think about the strategic planning of getting clients. So I became like this guy. I knew I wanted what I wanted to do, but I needed to get people involved. And I ran around to lots of different functions. And through that experience, I learnt what sort of worked for me. I was taking on mentors. So my children grew up seeing me in the backyard practicing speeches. They got to see me practicing PowerPoint slides in the family living room, to the point where they could recite most of what B&I is all about. I then held enough sessions that I got a group up and running, and it happened again and again and again. So one day when I didn't have to go to work, my daughter was taken to school, and it was our father-daughter day, and my daughter was asked, what does your father do? And the kids were to introduce each of the parents. And she leaned over to the microphone and said, well, I don't really know what my dad does, but he talks on the phone a lot and he goes out for breakfast. And to her, as a 10-year-old, that's what I did, and people paid us for it. Through there, my daughter learnt that, and I have learnt, is that you have to have passion. See, in the first job I had, I was earning a good income, but I was miserable. My wife backed me in the second job because she saw how much joy I was getting from being at home, being with the family and being with the children. So it wasn't about money. So I implore you to find whatever it is that you're passionate about. That is the one thing that's probably got me through to the success that I have today, is that I'm so passionate about what I do that whether I muck up their presentation, whether the venue doesn't know where we are, whether they've closed early, the lights go out, people get that I'm passionate about helping people create 100% of their business through the organisation that I run. That's our vision.